Hello and welcome into High School Roundup live here on CUTV. I'm your host for this week, Anthony D'Agostino, and alongside me is the dynamic duo of Stephen Ruffing and Danny Beck. Guys, welcome in a great week of high school football last week, and CUTV had one of the best games they will see in a while, I think.
Most definitely did, and I know you weren't on the call. You weren't actually even here.
I wasn't here.
So these highlights, this is going to be the first time you're going to see them. They're impressive, to say the least.
I was getting some messages back and forth when I was at home saying how good this game was, and I was rather jealous that I wasn't there to attend.
I wasn't there either.
I
was at the Kraft Hockeyville Gala in the Convocation Center. But Danny, you were the one that was there. You have the highlights. Break them down.
Yeah, and it was a fantastic game as we're going to get started right away into them. But you got to love EF. It's one of the best places to record a game, to film a game rather. And right off the bat, Elizabeth Ford right here. Nice little screenplay. Great block there from the wide receiver as Gavin Martik passed over to Zach Benedek, and he gets into the end zone first for EF. And on the second drive of the game, and this time for McGuffie, and a little wishbone set as Christian Cutter is going to go over to the right side of the field and rush 75 yards, making guys miss all over the place as he's going to stay in bounds. Nice little push off there. Might have looked like he stepped out of bounds, but on the replay from CUTV, he did stay in bounds, so it is a good touchdown. And then later on in the game, Zach Benedek is going to, actually, no, we're going to look at it again. This is what I was talking about, actually. This is our director, Gary Smith, said I put in a replay there because we're going to see if he stayed in bounds, and he definitely did. They put it on the scoreboard, but look right here when he stiff arms the guy. Right there, clearly in bounds. So next play, we're going to get into it. EF, another amazing pass here. Dylan Godet was on the call. He said Dilly Dimes, and that's what it was right there. Throwing it right into the breadbasket of the awaiting receiver, and another touchdown for Elizabeth Forward. Okay, on the scoreboard yet again, that's 20-7. And now a little bit fast forward, we're going to see here another Christian Cutter run. And look at this, spinning off guys, complete beast mode here from Cutter. Staying on his feet, not going down. They thought that his knee was down there. It wasn't. And Christian Cutter is just pushing people off all over the field, gets into the end zone yet again for McGuffie. And then a little bit later on in the game, we're going to see an interception here from Elizabeth Ford. You see there on your screen, that is still the second quarter. This team, and both of these teams, were just ferocious in the first half of the game. And actually, there wasn't really many highlights in the second half. You might be wondering what's going on. That was only the second half, or the first half, excuse me. But both of these teams with dominant performances in the first half, they couldn't really do much in the second. They just put all their hearts out on the line.
I mean, just from those, it was the first half highlights. You said nothing really happened in the second half. I mean, I think I missed a great one. I know I missed a great one.
Yeah, no, you definitely did.
Because that looked like one for the history books for High School Roundup.
I also heard that this is probably the best concession stand that CUTV is going to go to.
It was
our director Gary Smith was like,
it was fantastic.
They may win. I mean,
yes.
Apparently Dylan had like a potato or something and chicken, and like it was.
No, he had. It was like. Have you ever heard like the KFC, like the famous bowls?
The bowls, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was potatoes and chicken involved, and it was.
Well, it was mashed. It was mashed potatoes.
It was still potatoes and chicken. But.
You just said a potato.
Dylan just had a potato.
All right, let's move on.
It was good. It was good food. I swear. Just keep going.
We're gonna move on now to our Interstate Conference scoreboards here. Derry taking on South Park, 43-0. Yock beating Waynesburg, 21-6. As we continue on here, the non-conference 2A Brownsville taking on 3A Mount Pleasant. Brownsville falling here 44-7, and then AAA Beaver Falls and AAA Southmoreland went against each other, and Beaver Falls came away with the victory 49-7. As we look at the standings now for the Interstate Conference, right there you see Elizabeth Forward 3-0 and then 3-1. Derry right behind them though, 3-1 and 4-1, and then McGuffie 2-1, 2-1 with South Park, and then Yock is 1-1, and then Mount Pleasant down the bottom 1-2. Kind of interesting seeing Mount Pleasant down the bottom, and Elizabeth Ford right now at the top of their conference. Do you think they can hold it, guys?
I most definitely can, and I mean their passing game is one of the best that we've seen. Similar to how California in one of the Week 0 matchups, how dominant their rushing game was. It's the same thing with EF. I still think that it might be these top three teams that you see there, EF, Derry, and McGuffie at the top. McGuffie, if they face a team that can't really match up against Christian Clutter, it's done, honestly. I think that McGuffie will take this one.
Yeah, and early in the season, a week or two ago, I said South Park is kind of coming back, but they're lingering in that middle of the conference area there. So Elizabeth Forward, if they could get some big wins over Derry, maybe even a win against McGuffie, I think they can ride out this first place spot for the rest of the season.
We're going to move down to the AA Century Conference now as Beth Center took on Bentworth, and Beth Center came away with the victory 55-35. Chartiers Houston lost to Burgettstown 63-0. And moving on, Washington at Fraser 12-0. Washington defeating Fraser. As we continue on now, non-conference Charleroi defeating GCC 50-3. As we move on now, Century Conference standings, Burgettstown and Washington all tied 3-0, 3-0, and 4-0. Beth Center, they're 2-0 and 5-0. And guys, it's kind of a three-way tie for first. Right now, Beth Center has played more out-of-conference games than in-conference games, but they're still undefeated. Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Washington in this conference, but Burgettstown pulling out something that I personally did not expect out of them. Beth Center, they've always been a good team, but Washington, there's a couple teams there that are hanging with you, so we could see what kind of tenacity they have in this season. And similarly to how you think Burgettstown is really surprising you, Fraser at the bottom of this conference, doesn't have a win yet this season. That's equally surprising to me. I'm not really sure what's going on with them. We haven't covered a game, I believe, in 2 years. Don't quote me on that, though. But yeah, Fraser at the bottom of this conference, I do believe that Washington will stay at the top, though. We're going to move on now into the Tri-County South. Carmichael's defeating Avella 47-13. California, once again, putting up a huge number against their opponent, Mapletown, 63-8. Real quick, guys, that California team really starting to put up some numbers. They most definitely are, and I'm a big fan of California. I mean, we mentioned quite a few times in the past high school roundups. California dominated Mapletown 496 yards of total offense to Mapletown's 150. If that doesn't tell you really what happened in that game, I don't know what did. Well, I mean, just for a second, look at Jelani Stafford, 29, 25, and 50-yard runs, touchdown runs, unbelievable. Yeah, California, I think, is going to go places this year. As we continue on into the Tri-County South, West Green taking on Jeff Morgan. West Green came away with the victory, 18-0. Into the non-conference side of things for the single A, Monessen at Clairton. Clairton winning 52-13. As we look down the standings, California and Carmichael's are still tied at first, 3-0 and 3-0. California, though, has not lost this season. Carmichael's is 3-1. West Green, 3-1 and 4-1. Fort Cherry, 1-1, 3-1. But the real question, guys, is California going to be the first place team at the end of the season? I would have to say so. Yeah. It's looking like that. We'll have to see. I mean, it is a good team. Their running game is absolutely unbelievable, something we haven't seen for quite some time. Yeah, and I agree with that. It'll be interesting to see who they face, really, that challenges them, because that's always going to be the big test of everything in the season against these teams that are, I mean, if they don't have an answer to the running game, I mean, I think California's going to take it. Right, and that's what I've been saying. Once they find this team that they're going to face with this strong rushing defense, I think California's really going to struggle because we haven't seen much of them in the air. So that'll be interesting to see where California goes after the regular season. And I have another score update for you. I forgot to put this score in the graphics here. 2A non-conference, Fort Cherry took on Shenango, and Fort Cherry came away with a victory 42-35. The Rangers of Fort Cherry earned a non-conference win at Shenango. They rallied from 35-28 down in the fourth quarter, and then Ryan Culberson scored the winning touchdown on a 45-yard run with 55 seconds left. So pretty impressive win for Fort Cherry over this Shenango team. But before we take a break here, we have the West Virginia High School Roundup with Dylan Godet.
Thanks, Anthony. We have Single A, back to Single A this week, as we had Triple A last week, and we're starting the rotation back at Single A. So let's jump right in to Week 5 scoreboard now for Single A football in West Virginia. Number 1, St. Mary's had the bye this week, so they will remain at the top with their undefeated record. But South Harrison with a big 48-3 win over Moorfield. They had 3 rushers over 100 yards there in that game. And East Hardy had the big win over Southern Garrett out of Maryland there, 25-19, a big win in the state of Maryland for East Hardy. Webster County now, number 4 Webster County, taking on Notre Dame with a big 20-point win there over the Irish was Webster County, and they had 2 rushers over the 100-yard mark as they beat Notre Dame there in that one. And Madonna now with a big 28-7 win over Pendleton County. They scored 3 second-quarter touchdowns after being down early to pick up that big 28-7 victory. And on into Fayetteville. Fayetteville took on AA in-county rival there in Oak Hill, and they picked up the big 18-0 victory over Oak Hill. And Fayetteville has a lot of stuff surrounding that team. Consolidation moves possibly there with Valley Fayette. So that was a big win there, big emotional win for Fayetteville. And then the last scoreboard here is number 7 Midland Trail with a big 58-12 victory over Valley Fayette. And here's a look at the West Virginia rankings. St. Mary's again at the top, one of the more dominating teams in Single A. South Harrison there at number 2. Them and East Hardy could be teams to look out for this season. And then Madonna at 5 has only given up 19 points to the season to date, and that is the lowest there in Single A. So that is a defensive-minded team there, Madonna, to look out for as well. And remember, the WVSAC.org rankings will be updated today, later on at 2 p.m. on Tuesday. So that's something to look out for after this week's show. And then on into the rest of the show now. After this commercial break, we have South Union Township Game of the Week there in Laurel Highlands. 3A scores, and 4A scores and 5A scores and more. Stay tuned.
Since 1937, the Student Association Incorporated, known as SAI, has served the CalU student body by providing activities, programs, and services. Every enrolled student has the ability to take part in over 125 different clubs and organizations. Managing participation in every SAI activity is easy with OrgSync, a powerful tool for staying connected. Located 1 mile from campus, the SAI Farm has 94 acres of meeting and recreational space. SAI, it's your student association.
Welcome back to High School Roundup Live here on CUTV as we move on into the 4A Big 9 side of things where Laurel Highlands was playing. And Steve, you will have the highlights from this.
Yes, I do, as usual. Laurel Highlands, they were taking on Ringgold, and they kept it close. This one came down to the wire. Really, there was nothing that happened. Let's get right into the highlights. Nothing really happened in the fourth quarter, but this Laurel Highlands team, they stuck with Ringgold. This Ringgold team is a team that we've seen compete, and let's start it off with a Brendan Small 3-yard run, head down, plows through that defense, gets the first touchdown of the game. Then here to the passing game. Caleb Isell to Mad Max Masajewski for a 6-yard touchdown. Going to the second quarter, it was 14-0. Brendan Small will go at it again with that small 1-yard run to get Ringgold their third touchdown. Connor Basinger, he'll show his talents in the running game, just running right in there for a 2-yard touchdown. And here, this will set up for a big Laurel Highlands play. A fumble off the punt from Jacob Dukeman. And Jacob Dukeman, check out this, a 10-yard pass from Basinger to Jacob Dukeman. What a play, and he just hops his way in. Going into the third quarter. Laurel Highlands, there we go. A 1-yard run from I didn't change the script on this, so I'm going to have to go free range. Basinger drops back, finds his way. This is the 2-point conversion that could have tied the game. Laurel Highlands 21-19. Sorry, I was all over the place with those highlights. A lot of things happened in that game. There was a missed field goal from Laurel Highlands and that missed 2-point conversion that really could have screwed them up. They could have beat this Ringgold team. Next week they have Bell Vernon. We'll see what they can do. But my thing is, taking away from this game, they stuck with Ringgold.
Yeah, they definitely did, and a Ringgold team that's pretty strong. I mean, you can see their I guess their standings or whatever, their record on that graphic. But yeah, Laurel Highlands, they stick true. I mean, 21-19 to a decent Ringgold team, pretty good Ringgold team. You can't go away with that with your heads down.
No, not at all.
And they were so close to possibly going into overtime and 21-21 if they would have got that 2-point conversion.
Right, and like I said, nothing happened in that fourth quarter. That was the third quarter that they missed that 2-point conversion. So in hindsight, that play really could have been effective, but you got to play all 4 quarters. Both teams. Ringgold didn't do much to continue that lead, and Laurel Highlands didn't do much to try to get that advantage. So
we'll move on into the Big 9 scoreboards now. As you see, Greensburg-Salem at Bell Vernon. Bell Vernon winning 34-7, and then Thomas Jefferson beating Albert Gallatin 69-0. Moving on here, Uniontown and West Mifflin, 42-0 winners are West Mifflin. As you look at the non-conference now, Trinity at Blackhawk. Trinity defeating Blackhawk 62-34. Steve, that's a big win for Trinity, and big numbers too.
Yeah, and Joey Caroli, this is a name that we saw against my Laurel Highlands team. He rushed for 358 yards, and guess what? He wasn't finished there. He scored 5 touchdowns that game, basically beating the Hillers all by himself in that non-conference game. Caroli rushed for 3 touchdowns. He caught another. Dylan Kern completed 12 of 17 passes for 171 yards and 3 touchdowns. These two teams were absolutely all over the place in this game. 62-34. You couldn't have a higher scoring game than this one.
As we move on now into the Big 9 conference standings here, Bell Vernon and Thomas Jefferson are all tied up 4-0, 4-0, both in conference and out of conference. West Mifflin just underneath there, 2-1 and 3-1. Is it going to be Thomas Jefferson, Bell Vernon, or West Mifflin, guys?
Thomas Jefferson.
I concur.
Yeah, I'm never gonna. Bell Vernon, I mean, they're at the top right now, but I think Thomas Jefferson, they're gonna have at least one loss, and it's gonna be against TJ.
I was just gonna say that. I think that's the game that's gonna set them apart. I think TJ's gonna get the victory over Bell Vernon.
And we're gonna take a look now at the Big East scoreboards now. Armstrong taking on Franklin Regional. Franklin Regional getting the victory 26-23. And then Kiski taking on Connellsville. Connellsville losing 42-7 to Kiski. As we continue on the Big East Conference here, McKeesport beating Plum 48-14, and then Penn Trafford beating Latrobe 42-16. As you look at the non-conference side for the 5A, Gateway defeating Hampton 40-14, and Danny, big win for Gateway over this Hampton team.
Definitely a big win, and Brady Walker for Gateway completed 18 of 25 passes for 235 yards and connected with Travis Thompson on scoring strikes of 13 and 18 yards. Just big performance here from Gateway, putting Hampton away with the loss. As
you now look at the Big East standings here, Gateway and Penn Trafford 3-0 and 5-0. Franklin Regional 3-1, 3-1 with McKeesport 3-1 and 3-1. And then Plum is at 2-2. But Gateway and Penn Trafford are neck and neck, and they will actually play each other this week. I did not notice that when I made the pick'em, and I missed a big one there. So we'll ask right now, who do you think is going to come away with that victory to take sole position of first place?
I'm going to have to go Penn Trafford. Penn Trafford, they're a solid team all around, so it's going to be a fantastic game nonetheless, so we'll see what happens.
I don't know. I might have to go with Gateway.
Okay.
I mean, reading these stats, Brady Walker clearly has an arm and has some targets for him as well. But Penn Trafford's one of those teams that could surprise people sometimes. So I'm going to still stick with my Gateway pick. Put an X next to my name.
I'm going to go with Penn Trafford on this one. I think they have the upper hand, but it's going to be a barn burner in this one. It's going to be a very close game to the wire, and I can't wait to see the scores for that one. So make sure you stay tuned next week for that. But before we go to break, we have our hometown scores here with correspondent Colin Kirkwood.
Thank you, Anthony. And this week we had a few rivalry games on tap, and we'll take a look at that right here, right now. First off, we've got Carlisle taking on Central Dauphin, and the Rams pulled away with a big 65-14 win back home in Central PA, and I'm sure Danny Beck's excited about that. Next up, we've got Lampeter Strasburg. They traveled to Mannheim Central, and they have fallen from the ranks of the undefeated, falling 41-20. Next up, Steel Valley hit the road for South Allegheny, and they picked up a win, 31-17. And yes, you are reading that score at the bottom Millersburg fell to the Juniata Indians 70-0. Last but not least, we've got Dillon's Buckhannon Upshur. They took on Greenbrier East on the road, and they picked up a win in double overtime, 25-23. And that moves us over to the hometown standings, and quite a bit of shakeup this week as Steve now stands alone at the top, followed by Danny Beck, who's jumped into second place with a 3-1 mark. Tied with Anthony, though. The only reason Danny's ahead is because of that conference record. Followed by Dylan, who's 2-2. Gary Smith and I rounding out the bottom in the bottom club, 4-1 and 0-5. Looking forward to next week, we've got another huge game for Central Dauphin taking on Cumberland Valley. Millersburg travels to the Tri-Valley Bulldogs. Carleton versus Steel Valley. Ephrata makes the trip to LS, and Buckhannon Upshur takes on Bridgeport. Coming up here after the break, we've got our upcoming schedules. We've got our Pick'em featuring the Jody High Roller Pick of the Week and the top 3 plays, so make sure you stay tuned here on CUTV.
The Friday Night Lights shine on CUTV. August 25th, California at Brownsville. September 1st, Monessen at Carmichael's. September 8th, Southmoreland at Charleroi. September 22nd, McGuffie at Elizabeth Forward. September 29th, Franklin Regional at Connellsville. October 6th, Trinity at Bell Vernon. October 13th, Rochester at California. October 20th, Newcastle at Ringgold. October 27th, Washington at Best Center. Live on CUTV Sports 1, tape delay, CUTV.
As you look now at the upcoming schedules here on High School Roundup, Friday, September 29th, California travels to Monessen. Carmichael's is at Mapletown. Jeff Morgan is at Avella, and then West Green is at Fort Cherry. Now in the Century Conference here, Friday, September 29th, Bentworth at Charleroi, Best Center at Syracuse Houston, and then a Saturday afternoon game on September 30th, Brownsville is at Burgettstown. Moving on to the Interstate Conference now, Friday, September 29th, Mount Pleasant at Elizabeth Forward, Southmoreland at Waynesburg, and then Yock is at McGuffie. Into the Big 9 Conference on September 29th, Bell Vernon is at Laurel Highlands for South Union Township's Game of the Week. Ringgold is at Thomas Jefferson. Uniontown travels to Trinity, and then West Mifflin is at Greensburg Salem. In the Big East, Friday, September 29th, CUTV travels to Connellsville with Franklin Regional, and then Gateway travels to Penn Trafford. Plum is at Armstrong, and then another Saturday afternoon game, Latrobe is at McKeesport. Now, for the non-conference side of things, Friday, September 29th, we have 2 non-conference games. Albert Gallatin is at Highlands, and then Fraser travels to Derry. Now for everyone's favorite portion of the show, our Pick'em. There is a big shakeup in the Pick'em standings. I went 1-4, I dropped from first place, and I'm now tied for second with Colin, Dylan, and the puppy. Jody Highroller went 4-1, he's now 10-10, but a 3-way tie for first. Danny, Gary, and the Twitter people are all 14-6. Danny and the Twitter people went 4-1. Danny, you had a great week.
Yeah, I don't know what happened that week. I kind of just closed my eyes and wished to God, and God answered my prayers. 14-6, 10-10. Steve, you're not doing that bad.
Danny, you had a great week. I mean, check out Jody Hyroll, 4-1 as well.
You're still last, bub.
Yeah,
I mean, he went to first place.
Yeah, I jumped up.
I had a great week.
No,
You did. I did mention you had a great week.
And Colin did too.
Yeah, Colin's right in the middle of the pack. He can jump up this week.
Yeah, but when I go 6-0 this week, I'll be right back.
Oh, that's funny.
5-0?
It's a joke.
5-0, yeah.
No, you'll go 6-0. Yeah, that's fine.
Steve will be the only one.
The Penn Trafford and Gateway thing.
Oh, that's
That wasn't a real pick.
Yeah, it was.
That was cute. How you did that? That was cute.
Wide open standings here. We look at Fraser at Derry. Everyone except for Steve and the puppy going with Derry. Real quick, Steve, why did you pick Fraser?
I think I went with the puppy on this one. Derry, they're shaky. I don't know. Fraser, when I looked at where they were in their standings, that was post pick, so maybe I would want to take that one back, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with this one. Maybe Fraser pulls off the upset.
Now moving on to the next one, West Green at Fort Cherry. Steve, You're going West Green. Everyone else
this-
going Fort Cherry.
This is a legit pick. West Green has been shaking up the table these past couple weeks. Fort Cherry, they lost a lot in Zane Dudek. So, or no, that was Armstrong. That was Armstrong.
I was gonna say.
Fort Cherry. So I'm all over the place. But West Green, I think they actually have a legit chance beating this Fort Cherry team.
I think they do too, but this is, as we always say, this is a show me something game for West Green. They can beat this Fort Cherry team. As we move on now to Bell Vernon at Laurel Highlands. The Twitter people and Steve are going Laurel Highlands. I have jumped off that bandwagon after they've went 0-3 now the past 3 weeks. But Steve, I think, is this going to be your high roller pick of the week?
This is the high roller pick of the week, obviously. It should have been that Fraser one, but that one was kind of accidental. But this one is the high roller pick of the week. This is what gets me that #1 spot next week. So
I've got to go where it's warm. I don't think it's going to be warm in this one. I think it's going to be a pretty chilly game.
why is that?
Because it's getting later on in the season.
No, it's
gonna
probably
go
going to be hot.
You're going to go cold.
Probably
I don't
gonna
think
be
you're
hot.
going. I don't think you're going 6
I'm
and
getting
out.
hot. This
You're not
is
going 6
where
and
I
out.
heat up. This is where I heat
Nope,
up.
no chance.
Mount Pleasant at Elizabeth Forward. Everybody going with Elizabeth Forward. No need to discuss that after seeing last week's game. As we see now Plum and Armstrong. This is one people are starting to disagree on. Steve, Dylan, and the puppy are going with Plum. However, everyone else going with Armstrong. I think, Danny, why did you go with Armstrong?
I just think that Armstrong, I don't know much about this Plum team. I think that Armstrong will pull this one away. And as you said, there's a little bit of disagreement in this one. There always is going to be disagreement with Steve and the puppy. I don't know why Dylan decided to go over there either. Kind of maybe just closed his eyes and picked one. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think that Armstrong, their running game, although this is the Zane Dudek less, I guess the after Zane Dudek Armstrong team, I think that they're still going to pull this one away.
That was our pick for this week. As we see where CUTV's going, September 29th, Franklin Regional at Connellsville, and that's going to be an interesting game for Connellsville. It's Franklin Regional team is a very good team. As it's going to be a good game. Connellsville always great hospitality there. But before we close the show, we're just going to do our top 3 plays on the show. We got some time now, so roll the top 3 plays, and Danny, it's all from Elizabeth Ford McGuffie today.
It definitely is, just because of the fact that this game was full of highlight reel potential. And right here, we're going to see Christian Crutter, excuse me. This was his first really show me of a run of the game. This was his 75-yard run. That was actually his first play of the game for McGuffie. Big way to start off the game.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And I believe we're going to see EF. This one, absolute bomb to the left side of the field, that near side. I mean, absolutely unbelievable. A dilly dime, as some would say.
And this one, it's got to be this McGuffie play right here. Crutter here on a 55-yard run, spin move there, shimmy some tacklers, breaks this one, and he looks like he's down, but he's not. He continues to run and cuts to the middle of the field. Now he's got 2 men to beat, 1 in front of him, 1 behind him, and he just drags him into the end zone for the touchdown. And then will that upset the blue ribbon play from last time? Of course. This right here could be the play of the year. Spin move, shimmy some tacklers, guys. This was a great play, and it almost looked like the honorable mention I put in last week from Max Preps.
It was, and as I said before in the highlights, keeping his knee off the ground, that was big as he was throwing somebody off of him. But great performance by McGuffie, although they did come out on the losing side.
Guys, any quick comments before next week, before we wrap up the show?
I don't know. Watch out for Jody High Roller, for one thing, as always. Another great show in the books. Some great high school football to come. So
I think we're going to see a lot of 1-2 matchups, I believe, this week in each conference. So definitely stay tuned to your favorite scores, I guess, updates. I know we stay tuned on Twitter and all that stuff of all the different scores, but also check back for next week on High School Roundup.
Well, that's going to do it for us here on High School Roundup Live on CUTV. If you'd like to tweet us your picks, you have our Twitter poll at CUTV_PA. We always have the Twitter poll up there. If you have any plays you want to tweet at us, always use the hashtag CUTVHSR for that. And then also tweet at us, like I said, at CUTV_PA. Thanks again for watching, everybody. For Danny Beck and Stephen Ruffing, my co-hosts, our correspondents, Colin Kirkwood and Dylan Godet, our director, and everybody else in the studio with Gary Smith, I'm Anthony D'Agostino. Thank you all for watching High School Roundup here on CUTV.